Alright, hello, we're taking a look today at our UV82. This is a pretty interesting, I think pretty nice radio, at least in what I've done so far. The wagon is a little bit in front of the horse because I've not done the main range test that I'm planning or hoping to do for this video, and if there doesn't end up being one in the video at all, I apologize for even mentioning it. But focusing on the radio, it is 8 watt. We'll do a power test on that to confirm that, and I'm sure that it probably is about within spec. It's in the 2 meter and 70 centimeter bands. You get 2 of these 2800 milliamp hour batteries. There's another one in the packaging there. So you get 2 batteries, which is very nice. A bunch of nice stuff is included with this box. It's kind of an easy release on the battery too. There's a belt clip, attaches to the radio. Does it? Yes, thank goodness. So belt clip will attach to the radio. I just have not put that on yet. And there's not a lot to mention. Got a nice LED there. Dual PTT for VFOA, VFOB, which I've not had on a handheld that I've owned before, but otherwise strikingly similar menu and operation to a UV5R that many people are familiar with. Really standard K1 style, whatever you call that, programming plug. They do include the programming cable, and it works. I did not use the little disc that's included in there, but there is a disc that presumably has a driver or something of some sort. But I've used the cable, I've programmed the radio already, and it works well. Other doodads, you get a wrist strap, you get an earpiece thing. These are usually kind of I haven't tried it, not going to. You get a speaker mic. I actually like these. I'm a fan of these, so this is a big plus. And you get 3 antennas with this radio. This is kind of your standard, typical UV antenna that comes on lots of stuff, UV5Rs and other variants of it. This one, so that's pretty typical. You get this really interesting itty bitty stubby antenna. We'll see if we ever really have any use for that or not. Doesn't really look like much, but maybe if you're just receiving and you don't want something poking out of your backpack, or you don't need to transmit far, maybe it's good. Probably one of the best things included is this really nice, highly flexible and longer length antenna, quite a bit longer than the typical stock, almost double the length of a stock UV radio antenna, and very flexible, very nicely finished with a cap, coated rubberized finish, and a sturdy base. So this is probably a really nice upgrade over what I would call the stock antenna, so I'll definitely be giving that a try. The radio itself, we talked about a little bit. It has a menu almost identical to UV5R. I mean, it seems to be basically the same screen, doing the same type of stuff. I don't know if you can see in the camera anything on that screen. We'd probably have to turn the backlight off. I'm trying to remember which one that is. I think it's this one. Yeah, I don't know. You still probably won't be able to see it super well, but very standard menu-driven system there. And I think the best way to talk further about this radio itself would be to start comparing it to the ubiquitous, the infamous UV5R radio. I said it has a stock UV type of antenna, and it sure does. These radios, they're so-called stock antennas. identical. I've probably already mixed them up, but they're identical in every way. So short of an upgrade, any testing that we do, I'm probably going to try to use what I'm going to call the stock antenna, just for a more apples to apples type of comparison. The screens and the menu system, virtually identical in every way on these radios. The menu works exactly the same, or virtually the same, and the options are virtually the same. The capabilities, the programming and chirp is virtually the same, but there are physical differences and some power differences. A stock UV5R is a 5-watt radio. This one is pushing 8 watts on high power, so you're getting more power in this. In reading other people's reviews, some people honed down to something that wasn't apparent to me at first. The buttons are significantly larger on the UV82, and they have a loud and satisfying definitive click to them. The buttons are smaller, still like click, you know, positive action on the UV5R, but for people with larger hands, I don't have big hands, so this is not real applicable to me. I'm just kind of sharing this for other people's sake. If you have big hands, or you don't have, I say, all the dexterity that you once had, or have, you know, anything like that, this keypad is definitely bigger, easier to read, easier to interact with, but the screens are the same. The LED is better on the UV82. You got kind of a lensed, more high quality thing going on there versus a very cheap LED on the UV5R. But I've used the LED flashlight a lot on the UV5R, and it's okay, but it's better on the 82. Single push to talk on a UV5R versus dual push to talk on a UV82, which means that you can do, obviously you can have 2 frequencies set up in VFOA, VFOB on either of these radios, but on this radio you'd have to press this button to switch which one you're transmitting or listening on. On this one, you can have 2 frequencies or 2 channels, whatever you like, set up there, and you can switch back and forth without doing any other things if you're relaying messages or something. So that may be of interest to some people or annoying to others. Otherwise, pretty similar functionality. I strongly suspect that the guts of these are really just about the same. And I actually have a UV5RTP tri-power that has 7-8 watts, about the same power that this one's supposed to have. So I don't know, like, maybe we'll be able to get out and do some testing and kind of do some comparison, because I've seen some things thrown out on the internet about, oh, the receive is better on this one or whatever. Like, oh, without having done the testing yet, my suspicion is that these radios have the same exact guts, and the only really differences are physical and a little bit the buttons on them. I'm suspecting the actual SoC radio on a chip thing, probably virtually identical. If it's true that this radio sounds better or sounds like it has better receive, my strong suspicion is that it probably simply has a bigger, better speaker. I doubt that the actual radio in there is any more discerning or selective than the UV5R, but I have not tested that. The speaker's definitely smaller on a UV5R, so I mean, people who say this one sounds better, I'm going to try to find out, and it could very well be true, but I'm thinking there's probably just a bigger, better speaker, because this is a bigger, physically bigger radio than the UV5R. The UV5R stock battery is smaller than the 2800 milliamp hour battery that you get with this. This is only 1800, but of course there are 3000 milliamp extended batteries aplenty for UV5Rs. So, you know, if you're trying to figure out which one you prefer, honestly, pretty tough choice. Personally, I like that this one is smaller and more compact, because sometimes I'm just trying to fit a lot of stuff in my bag or whatever, and having a smaller radio, I'm fortunate to have good vision and small nimble fingers. This little keypad is not a issue for me, but yeah, we'll try to do a little bit of testing and comparison against these and see what we think. I'm going to give one extra little point to the UV5R just to point out that the UV5R sits flat, and for whatever silly reason, the UV82 does not sit flat with its regular battery on a flat surface. Not sure what the deal is with that, but so be it. The user manual is what you'd expect. It mostly covers stuff for other things you might need to go out to the internet, but there's fairly decent description of the menu options and the available settings and the controls. So programming it, no problem. If you've ever programmed a UV5R, or if you ever programmed anything with Chirp, it is just fine and dandy with the included programming cable. So I think that's all there is to say here on the table. We'll do a power test, and if we're able to, we'll also do some kind of a range test and maybe a battle against a UV5R or UV5R TP, and see if we can squeeze any extra info into this video. Alright, let's do some power testing with the UV82 here. I've got it set up on 146.520 National Simplex. So let's just see, we're on high power now. If I key up this radio, let me make sure the scale is set correctly to 15 watts. What do we get out? Just about 7. Just a hair under 7 watts. So at this particular frequency, I'm not getting the exact 8 that they maybe advertise, and I don't have the ability to check on UHF. This meter just doesn't work in that range, and I could go around the band a little bit, but this is a common enough frequency to matter, and yeah, just about touching 7 there. So that's what we get on the high setting for the radio there. If I go menu, go look at, there it is, transmit power. Just for fun, we'll see, oh, we have a mid setting, high, low, and mid. Okay, so that was high. We'll put it on medium power just to see what that reads. So, keying up the radio for just touching 4 watts on medium, and we'll set her to low there. Don't know if you can read that. Oops. And on our low setting, about 1.5, just over 1.5 watts on the low. So that's essentially, go back to high, that's your range, 1.5 to 4 to almost 7, 6 3/4, and probably on some specific frequency it would hit 8. Of course, we are going through a 12-inch RG58 jumper cable and an adapter, so maybe there really is 8 watts and there's just a little loss here between the adapter and the jumper. So, if you make an allowance for that, then this radio is right in its advertised range for power output. There you go. Late fall here in northern Minnesota. Alright, we're going to try a like a 9-mile range test. I'll double check the exact distance, but pretty sure it's 8.5 or 9 miles, which I've tried before with the UV5R and not been able to get two-way audio. And now we have the UV82, so will it be any better? Is it a better receiver or more sensitive, as some have claimed? I guess we will find out. I've done my identification already, so we're just going to go right into testing without any IDs or any personal information. So first up, try the UV5R. Testing, testing, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clear. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. That's better than I thought it was going to be. It must be because it's fall and the leaves have mostly come off the trees, so it's sounding pretty good.
Yeah, it's very clear. I can hear you perfectly on this end. It's kind of cool that you can actually hear me this time.
Yeah, it is. This is with the radios that we already had, so I'm going to switch over to the new one real quick. Turn this one off. That was basically the volume all the way up on at the end there. So this is 3 more watts. See if that makes any difference. So now I'm on to the new radio coming through. Uh-oh. I didn't hear anything. Did you transmit at all? Maybe I should. Oof. Maybe I should turn on this radio. No, maybe not. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Not good results so far for the UV82. Let me switch back here. Yeah, the new radio, I wasn't able to hear you so far. Were you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Don't think you can hear me, especially since there's a car alarm going off in the background, which means you definitely can't hear it.
I can hear you now. I switched back to the UV5R. Are you still there?
Yep, I'm still there. I can hear you just fine. Could hear you on the new radio too, but apparently you can't hear me on the new radio.
Yeah, that's really weird. I'm going to try again on the new radio and move it around a little bit. And when you reply, if you can, I mean, you know, I know we don't have like a script or much to say, but try to make it last for a good 5-6 seconds somehow, and see if I can move it around and pick something up. Switching now. Try it back on the 82. Okay, back on the UV82. It's me holding the monitoring button. I'm still not getting anything. Hello, hello? Not looking good for the UV82, which has more wattage, but isn't making the trip. At least it's not receiving better than a humble UV5R. Alright, I switched back to the original radio that works. Still there?
Still there for the long while both times, and
I definitely had more static from you that time. I'm going to try putting the upgraded antenna on that other radio. It'll take me just a few seconds here, and then I'll reach out again, okay? Assume that's okay. UV5R was working well, but maybe conditions are changing. So they sent this upgraded antenna with the UV82 kit. Let's take off what I call a stock antenna and try this one and see if it is any different. Turn off the UV5R. Alright, I put a new antenna on the new radio. We'll see if it makes any difference when you reply. I thought I heard something for a second there, but it wasn't like voice that I could discern. Are you still transmitting?
Well, I stopped when you started, so you can maybe you could hear a little bit of what I did, and then that second time you just transmitted it. It's sure staticky and hard to understand you.
Hey, for the first time I found a spot in the window where I can hear you, but you're saying I'm more staticky now?
Not that time. That time was great, but the middle time that was in spot 3. It was really static.
Okay, well I am in a glass box with metal framed windows, so that's probably making a little difference, but I was using the exact same antenna on both before. You're definitely more staticky with this antenna.
Pretty good. Maybe the distance is better, but I think still pretty good.
Well, it's barely understandable with a so-called upgraded antenna to this one again. Switching back to the other radio that worked better, but trying for the same spot that was working with the new one. Is this clear or about the same?
Maybe slightly more clear.
That's a really interesting result because I think this other radio is supposed to be more powerful and better, but given the current results we're having, it's not really looking like it's that much better.
It's more static than one.
It might just be where I'm holding it to. Is that better?
About the same.
That could just be conditions. Let me try one more thing, standby. Just to show you that I'm not crazy, we're going to take the stock antenna off this UV5R. Should have been exactly the same as what was on this one before. I mean, shipped in different boxes, but you know, they mass produce these antennas. So here's that antenna here. Same spot it was in before. Alright, another test with the new radio. Is it about the same or any better? All of a sudden, I just caught the very end of that. What were you saying?
Do you want me to record a little bit of you coming through on this radio from the new one?
I don't know. Is there really any drastic difference? It probably won't be important if it sounds about the same every time.
No, it definitely sounds pretty much exactly the same, so no difference.
Okay, I was able to hear you better this time with the newer radio. I'm holding it in a different spot, but using the antenna from the other one, which should have been the same. So it might be a little bit how it's being held, where it's being held, or I don't know what, but it seems to be working about as good now, or maybe a little more static. Try that. Let's just throw this one on the UV5R for giggles, as long as we're playing musical antennas. I might have lost you there for a second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know if you can hear me, but you had asked if it sounded good, and I said, yeah, it sounded pretty much normal, not very much static, so whatever spot you had it in was.
Okay, I had lost you and moved it around a little bit, but then you're coming through good again now on the UV5R. Still there? That just seems to be really sensitive to where I hold it, so I don't know if I found any conclusive proof that one radio is better than the other, but I think I've tested about all I need to test today.
Sounds good. A little different from this half an hour.
Yep, I am on my way. Bye.
Bye.
Alright, well, I can tell you which one I prefer communicating with in this particular circumstance, because for whatever reason, am I holding it wrong? Am I putting it in the wrong spot? I mean, you saw what I did and what I tried, and did I use the UV82 incorrectly? I'm not sure what to make of the results of this very rough and informal test, so I'll rewatch the video so I can see what you saw. I'll think about it a little bit, but so far I'm not blown away by the UV82. I'm not totally disappointed. I'm just confused on why the UV5R seems to just work and work well pretty effortlessly, and the UV82 was a little harder to even get the signal, and even when I did get the signal through, it seemed like it was more staticky. But was I not being consistent in how I was holding and using the radios? Possibly. So I wouldn't call that a scientific or conclusive test, but I'm sharing with you what the test was, and you can make of it whatever you would like. Alright, I'm going to go back down this tower and we'll wrap up this review.